All right, Doug Emhoff is the husband of Kamala Harris, the guy that knocked up his daughter's nanny, who was also the elementary school teacher at his daughter's school. After he knocked her up, she reportedly had an abortion, although we don't know if he has a secret daughter somewhere. This woman was forced to quit her job and move to New York. Doug Emhoff then went on to marry or get divorced, break his family up, and then he married Kamala Harris. And, I always wondered, like, what kind of guy would marry someone like Kamala Harris who slept her way to the top? Well, the guy that knocks up the nanny would. Reportedly, in 2012, at a film festival, a drunken Doug Emhoff got upset with his girlfriend because he perceived her to be flirting with another man. And like any male feminist does, he hit her in the face so hard that she turned around. And this report is credible reporting, and I'm going to explain to you why I say that. This story was broken by the same guy who broke the story about Doug Emhoff knocking up the nanny. It's awful. It's grotesque. That these two, this girlfriend and Doug Emhoff, were a couple. This is well documented. There's photographic evidence. 3 friends of this ex-girlfriend confirmed that this happened, although no response from the Kamala Harris campaign. And the girlfriend, who is unidentified, I think it would be pretty easy to identify her, hasn't denied it or commented on it. Who would want to discuss this kind of traumatic experience like that? The mainstream media doesn't want you to hear about this, but I think this is important that you do hear about this because this shows the character of the man, and it also shows the character of the woman who chose to marry the man after he did this. So we will report this to you. The second headline today is the United States is sending $336 million in quote-unquote aid to Gaza. $336 million in aid to Gaza? What about Valdosta, Georgia? Or Asheville, North Carolina? What about Florida? What about the southern United States that has been ravaged by Hurricane Helene? What do they get? Well, remember, we talked about this on Monday. According to Joe Biden, there's no more aid for them. But there's $336 million that we're sending in aid to Gaza. And my question, listen, I have compassion for the people in Gaza, the innocent Palestinians who are used as human shields by Hamas, who die because Hamas terrorists are so cravenly cowardly that they hide behind children in hospitals. They hide in schools behind teachers. They are the epitome of evil. But the thing is, when we send quote unquote aid to Gaza, it doesn't get to the people. It goes right to Hamas. And we know this because when Hamas propagated their terror attack on October 7th of 2023 in Israel, they had in their trucks that they drove into Israeli territory humanitarian aid packages that they had intercepted before it got to the Gazan people, and they were using it as sustenance to sustain themselves during this terror attack. So is it appropriate for the U.S. to send this aid to Gaza? It is not, especially when the United States, the southern United States, are absolutely devastated from Hurricane Helene. All right. Border Patrol agents in the Swanton sector. You probably don't hear about this sector. It's in Vermont very often. They are reporting that they have apprehended more than 19,222 subjects from 97 different countries since this time last year, since October 1st of 2023, one calendar year. Nearly 20,000 subjects from 97 different countries. And this, by the way, this number is more than the last 17 fiscal years combined. So it's not just the southern border, it's the northern border as well. And take a look at this. Take a look at this video. It shows what's happening. Maybe we should ask ourselves what happened in those couple of years that could cause such a difference in the number of people who were apprehended in the Swanton sector. And the answer is Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris invited migrants, mass migration of aliens to come to the United States. She promised that they would not be deported. She, in fact, repeatedly promises to give them citizenship and welfare and money and access to vote here in the United States if they come here. This is a direct result of Kamala Harris's open borders mentality. And you can make all the distinctions you want, and that's fine, between illegals and technically legal mass migration that Kamala Harris has just bestowed legality on. She does that because if you're illegal, you can't seek citizenship. If you're legal, then you ultimately can seek citizenship. So what she does is everything she can to bestow at least temporary protected status on these people so that she can turn them into Democrat voters to secure her power and the Democrats' power forever. Because of course she thinks she owns migrants. If they do get to vote, she thinks all I'm going to have to say to them is, you vote for me or the other side will deport you. And that she will have cemented this vote of this mass migration vote forever and ever. The mainstream media doesn't want you to know about that mass migration crisis, so we will tell you about it. Meanwhile, in the state of Virginia, the school board agreed to pay $575,000 to a teacher that had been fired from a job there because the teacher refused to use the preferred pronouns of a student who identified as transgender. You might remember that. We discussed the story at the time, the teacher fired. Can you imagine a girl who, or a transgender student requiring you, demanding that you use neo pronouns? You saying, no, I'm not going to do that because I don't indulge delusion. I love you as the person that God created you to be. No disrespect intended, but I won't indulge dangerous delusion that will harm you physically, emotionally, and spiritually. You get fired from your job for doing that. And now the Virginia School Board agrees to pay over $500,000 to this teacher for standing up and doing what's right. And this is the kind of story I love to hear. This is the kind of story the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear because it doesn't often pay to do the right thing. And we shouldn't do the right thing in pursuit of being paid for it. But man, once in a while, when doing the right thing, even when it's hard, does pay out or you're vindicated in the end, there's poetic justice, and I mean justice with a capital J there, and we love to see it and we celebrate it.